What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of the HypeCast, your weekly gaming topical show with SnowBikeMike and Tom Bach. We're going to have a ton of fun talking about the biggest headlines from this week. And oh boy, Tom, we got a whole lot of news to talk about. Some Fortnite, some Ninja moving streaming platforms, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Of course, if you don't know, it's your boy SnowBikeMike joined with Tom Bach for your weekly HypeCast, and we're going to have a ton of fun. So let's jump right into it. Tom Bach, the biggest story of the week. One of the world's most recognizable streamers has come out and sent out a tweet with a fun video announcing that he will exclusively be streaming on Mixer. Ninja is moving away from Twitch.tv and heading over to Mixer, the Microsoft platform. Tom, this rocked the world. This has shaken everybody down to their core. What do you think about this?
First of all, man, it's awesome we're doing this. We finally did a little video episode of the podcast here. I love it. Man, this story was crazy, and it I won't say it caught me off guard because it didn't catch me off guard. And I think you and I have talked in the past about, we're kind of at the infancy stages of figuring out what streaming is going to be about in the future. It's kind of wild west of companies and people trying to kind of figure out content and stuff going forward, right? So in one way, it kind of didn't surprise me that Microsoft, in particular Microsoft, who's I think about 5-1 to Twitch, or maybe even like 10-1 viewership. I read some kind of conflicting articles about their numbers, that they would take something like Ninja and try to go do this. And, as you and I talked about before we started recording, it'll be interesting to see if people are loyal to Ninja. Are they loyal to Twitch? Does it really matter if, what platform these guys are on, and do their audiences follow them wherever they go? I kind of think that they will. And man, for Ninja, to me, this is incredibly smart to hook up with a company like Microsoft that has the deep pockets Microsoft has. And if I think of like the types of production value that they can bring over the next set of years, man, it can be this could be sort of the beginning of what streaming is going to turn into, for the top level streamers, obviously, as we go forward. So I think it's a really interesting, it's going to be fascinating to kind of watch where this goes.
Yeah, this is a wild one, Tom. I thought the Twitter post, of course, was a whole lot of fun with his own little mini press conference, taking questions from the press pool. But I think the announcement is gigantic. Moving from Twitch, where really he found his audience. He became the world's #1 streamer as we watched him over the years. And I think you really hit it on the head of talking about streaming in general. It's still kind of new, right? We feel like it's been around for quite some time, from Justin TV, heading into Twitch, and now Mixer, YouTube gaming, and so much more. But really, when we look at live streaming as a whole, we are still in the infancy. We're still finding our footing, and it's only going to grow. And now, will Twitch become the main dog 10 years down the line? Will Microsoft, with the backing that they have, the finances that they have, really start to open up this platform? Or will we see another platform come out on top? But right now, for the time being, Twitch and Mixer have been the 1 and 2, and to see Ninja go over to Mixer, which is regarded as probably the smaller platform, a little less audience base, a little less usage, this is gigantic for me. And of course, we don't know the back end details. We'll never know really the true contract, but we know it had to be a dump truck full of money. Whole lot of praise going out there. And what will it look like? Like you said, does the audience follow? I know I'm going to follow no matter what, right? Ninja's entertaining, high-level gameplay, and whatever platform he's on, if I want to have a good time watching some Fortnite, Ninja's usually one of the first ones that I stop in and go check on.
Well, man, think about this for a minute. So if you think about, Twitch is obviously Amazon, right? So you've sort of got the, biggest market cap company on the planet, Microsoft, and Amazon not too far behind. But the difference between the two, when you think about sort of what they're trying to do, at least in terms of gaming, Twitch doesn't have a lot of other stuff to sell, right? They're not trying to sell consoles. They're not trying to sell units of video games. They're not trying to do all those kinds of things. Microsoft is, right? They have an entirely different reason of why they would want to get a Ninja or any of the streamers on their platform, because in a lot of ways, the more Mixer audience you have, maybe you sell more Xboxes, maybe you sell more. I mean, you can't think for a second that they're not going to have him streaming their big games as soon as their big future games come out. So they're going to get lots of sets of eyes on their games, right? Twitch doesn't have that same kind of motivation maybe that a Microsoft does. And dude, I got to think, as someone like yourself who streams a ton and like you know, it's up to the audience to fund you, right? So you get donations and all the stuff that goes with it with Twitch Prime. All that falls away for this with Ninja, right? Like that's not going to be how this works. He's representing Microsoft now. They're paying him, and so he's not going to, I mean, look, if there's one thing that occasionally got a little annoying about the really big streamers, maybe not Shroud because he doesn't really interact with the audience that much at all, but is like the, hey, hit the subscribe button, make sure to send us this. And I get why they do it. Look, it's a business. They have to make money and remind people they got their Twitch Prime to pay them or get biddies and all the stuff that they do, right? But that all goes out the window, man. So he can just focus on his content. He doesn't have to worry about if the numbers are down one week or another week, the way I know all streamers kind of, I'm sure, and you can comment on this. It's, you know, your numbers move around and it's a financial impact to you. Dude, that's all out the window for this, which is crazy. So he can just kind of focus on doing his thing. And I just think Microsoft's going to leverage this to sell a lot more shit, which is really what they want to get out of this deal.
Yeah, definitely, Tom. It will be interesting to see what this all pans out over the next week, over the month, over the year. Because like you said, really, Ninja's already been in a great position coming from Twitch with the Red Bull esports sponsorship as well, and so much more in between. It's not really about the money. I'm sure it's about his personal growth, where he wants to be in 5 years. And he said, taking it back to his roots, we do know that Ninja really came up as a Halo superstar. So this could be a great one, like you said, to kind of get on those exclusive games, start to put eyes on certain Microsoft products. That would be really fun to watch and an interesting take on that kind of streaming broadcast that we've seen in the past. But, you know, Tom, it will be a whole lot of fun, and I'm really excited to see where Ninja goes with it, what it looks like. I don't know much about Mixer as a platform. One of the biggest things I knew was just kind of the broadcast itself. You could get a little more chat interaction because you were streaming so quick and a little bit different than Twitch. But I believe Twitch has kind of narrowed that gap down and figured that out where you could be live streaming with the chat moments ahead of time instead of being about a 20-second gap in between like it used to be. So I don't know what the pros and cons are, but I think the back end is really where you're going to see it. Like you said, he won't have to worry about the daily tips, the donations, the subs, what that impacts him, as he's probably getting a good lump sum or maybe a yearly contract where he can really focus on the content, focus on himself, and all the things that he does outside. You got to think Ninja at a certain time last year and beyond, he was going out doing events left and right. And on Twitch, like you said, that really starts to hurt your numbers, your Twitch subs as well. And that starts to affect certain streamers. Ninja might be out of that bubble, but in the long run, him doing so many events around the globe, that was going to hurt the bottom line if that's what he was relying on. So maybe with Mixer, this will change all of that. And man, wouldn't it be great, Mixer and Ninja, one of the most recognizable faces around, him to be out there with the Microsoft team promoting certain products. I mean, everybody's going to recognize his face, his name, and they're going to see a certain product behind him. That's going to be some big advertisement that you want to see.
Brother, it's going to be huge. And you got to think that that's why they did this, right? Is really just sort of like like I said, all the products they can come out with and kind of get him to sort of be there. I don't say spokesperson's a bad way to say it, but they can get him to preview it out to audiences and do all that kind of stuff. I mean, think about this for a minute. Like we talk about Dr. Disrespect sometimes. And if you think about when we say it's like the Wild West, streaming has just started and it's just so brand new as an enterprise in general. Just think of the little tiny things that even he does, which are just nothing for people that produce videos, right? Silly little things of him dancing or, you know, putting his face inside of a thing. Like that's one guy and probably a crew of a couple of people that put that stuff together, right? Can you imagine when you look, I live in Redmond, Washington, so it's not like I'm, you know, I know I work with Microsoft every day of my life. In my job, I know exactly sort of what they're capable of and the size of that company and their capabilities. Can you imagine if you get this could turn into like entire, you know, Mixer TV channels that are so highly produced with, you know, lots of funding, lots of really great artists and people to take this thing to the next level, to almost have like, you know, Ninja, you know, TV. But you think of it's not going to be like some dude in his basement with a dark camera like on the side, you know, like I always laugh at Shroud stuff because he gets such huge audiences, but like half the time he's barely even in the screen. And, you know, it's like it's the lowest production value. And I think as this thing grows, and maybe I'm crazy, but dude, I think the production values are going to grow. And for all the people that, and like Dr. Disrespect's got a lot of issues, no doubt, but he was one of the first people that kind of saw that, like, hey, I can make this more entertaining by adding, you know, his Logitech lounge or up on top of the building or the helicopter. But think of this done by like a giant team of people with a lot of funding, and how cool this might be to really grow this platform off into whatever it's going to be. And I'll close on this, dude. The cool thing about Mixer, and I have played around with it a little bit. I used to watch a lot of PUBG on it. You know how they sometimes like they'll show like another camera angle of the guy's mouse movement, like I think Tfue and some of those guys do it. So Mixer actually shows you exactly what keys they're hitting. Like it's almost like it's integrated in. So like if you're on a controller, it shows you the actual controller. It shows you what buttons and the movements. And so if you're interested in sort of watching them physically do what you can. And again, it's Microsoft, dude. This is what they do for a living. They come up with platforms. They write software. Like that platform is going to be as robust as they need it to be over time. But I mean, I think that's pretty cool to see kind of what they do with it.
Oh, Tom, you got me smiling from ear to ear, just dreaming about what the next production quality could be with Ninja and Microsoft. You know it's going to be a ton of fun. And definitely a big, interesting move. Just was announced 2 days ago. Still brand new. I think he got his first inaugural stream, like Tom said to me earlier in the show, just today or yesterday. So still all brand new. By the time you're watching, he's probably a week in, getting his feet wet. And we'll see what those numbers look like. How many people go out there? Does, after a month or two of him being happy, does he start to call his friends up and say, hey, you should consider this? Are his friends a little bit smaller than him and say, hey, I can't leave Twitch, but this will be interesting to stuff, because Ninja really has an influence on a whole lot of streaming worlds, so we'll see where it goes. But
dude, what if they got
Ninja,
like a couple? Hang on, before you go, what if they got a couple more people? Like, there's no way this was a one-shot deal. They didn't just get Ninja and then they're done. This either is going to put pressure on Twitch to try to keep their big streamers. Again, not even the Fortnite ones, but the guys that were there, guys and gals that were there long before Ninja was there, right? Playing like like Lyric and some of those guys, like the original sort of the guys that would play like, what is the original shooter that they all used to play? God, I'm blanking on the name of it. The Valve game.
H1Z1?
No. The Counter-Strike. The Counter-Strike players from way back in the day, the League of Legends guys. So you can't think this is the only one. So what if Microsoft goes out and gets a Shroud? What if they go get a Doc? What if they go get, they could fundamentally change this entire landscape so quickly if they threw enough dollars at it. They both have the dollars. Both Amazon and Microsoft obviously do. But can you imagine? I mean, there's no way this is the only name that they're going after.
It will be exciting to see, Tom. I mean, like you said, I'm sure there's more deals in the work on the background. But yes, now the question becomes, if you start to grab all those big names, does Twitch rely on smaller streamers to kind of grab up that audience and grow themselves to see the next superstar, the next Shroud, the next Ninja? Or do they say to themselves, oh man, we've been put in a bad position because all 40,000 of those viewers are going over to the opposite side to watch X, Y, and Z that might have jumped ship? That will be some fun stuff to play with. And of course, competition rises all boats. So we'll see where we go with that one. But sticking with Ninja and all of that, Ninja brought up with the Fortnite, and we just had the Fortnite World Cup last week, Tom Bach, and it was truly incredible out there in New York at the Arthur Ashe Stadium, which is the big tennis stadium. They converted that thing into something incredible, Tom. I'm sure you and the viewers out there saw a lot of the photos, saw the live streams. They had 3 days of fun out there in New York, and we saw some incredible gameplay from duos and singles. Of course, your solo champion, Booga, going to walk away with $3 million in his pocket. 16 years old, Tom Bach. Truly incredible to watch, and he dominated. We'll talk about him in a moment. And then there was Nyrox and Aqua winning the duos. They're going to split $3 million between the two of them. Tom, imagine being these age, teenagers, early 20s, walking away with millions of dollars from playing a game that you love.
Absolutely insane. And I tweeted a few things out because I can't even, I would have never if you would have asked me, like, I know how big Fortnite is, obviously. I know the kind of money Epic's making. The dollars don't surprise me, but the prize pools for this surprised me. Like, if you would have asked me a month ago what the prize pool would have been for this, I don't think I would have even come close to saying it was $3 million for winners. And by the way, it paid out all the way through the bottom people.
Oh, yeah.
Like 100 large for the people at the very bottom of the thing. So I was really, really surprised by the amount of prize pool. But again, this is the U.S. Open Tennis Stadium. They packed that freaking thing in. I'm sure there was enough, sort of revenue to generate to pay these prize pools. But man, it was a really interesting. Did you watch much of it? How much of it did you watch?
I got to watch all weekend. So I watched from Friday to Sunday. I saw the Pro-Am. I saw the Creative World Cup, which was a lot of fun. If you haven't seen what they do over on that side, that's a really cool take on Fortnite and kind of the game mechanics that they can use in that. And then, of course, I watched duos and solos. So I would say I was pretty caught up, really in tune with it. You know, me kind of being that esports guy. This was my bread and butter. This is what I wanted to see all weekend.
Dude, I think of you whenever I watch any of these. Is I always tweet you and tell you like I could see you being an announcer for one of these. I still think that's your destiny. But so answer me this, man, because this was I was really excited to watch the thing, and I was more sort of fascinated just by the whole. I really dug like the Pro-Am thing. I thought was really cool. But did you look? You and I are both huge sports guys, right? I watch more sports than I would ever care to want to watch. And did you? I don't know, man. And I don't know if it's, and I'm not, this isn't meant to be mean towards these kids because obviously they're a lot younger than I am and stuff. But I always wonder if they have enough individually sort of pull for this thing to continue to be this big, right? Are people going to get hooked on what makes sports so big? Like think of the NBA, right? The reason you and I love the NBA, number one, is because of their talent, which these guys and gals that play Fortnite obviously have too. But what really separates them is they're so different than you and I, and they're like larger than life figures, right? And they, kind of command your attention, NFL, NBA, whatever. All I could think about as I was watching it was like, would I ever be an actual fan of all these individuals the way that I am a fan of, Russell Wilson or Zeke Elliott or Tim Duncan or whatever? Like, that was the strangest like disconnect for me when I was watching it. Was like, it's cool to watch, but am I really into it for the players, or am I just strictly into it because I can appreciate the game? Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally, Tom. I think, that's a tough dichotomy right there, right? Because you know the game, you love the game. And the best part about watching these big World Cups or these big esports events is you walk away saying, well, I could do that. The common guy could put enough practice and I could play that because I don't have to be 6'8", 235 like LeBron battling in the paint. You walk away from the Fortnite World Cup and say, man, they had 12 weeks of qualifiers where it was open to every single person around the globe and it was free entry. Anybody could give it a try. And now you walk away thinking, man, Fortnite World Cup 2, I could be that person. I could be that next superstar. So I think the sport gets you where you're like, I could do this. And on the flip side, I think it's really fun. Like you said, there's a couple hundred kids down there that you might not recognize the name. But if you've been keeping up with the qualifiers, if you've been keeping up with the esports world and really, or the streaming world, you're going to start to recognize a couple of these names. Sure, a lot of them are very young and they haven't grown into themselves like Tim the Tap Man, Ninja, Dr. Disrespect, where if you saw them at the Fortnite World Cup, they would demand your attention, right? If Ninja won, he would get up with that multicolored hair and everybody would be freaking out, right? This kid who wins, he's 16 years old. He barely can get a grasp on what is happening. Cannons are going off. Confetti's flying. This kid is so well-mannered that he just kind of put up the #1 logo and that was it. As opposed to if you and I, Tom Bach, won and we've grown into ourselves, I might have flipped a table. I might have ripped the monitor off and thrown it into the fans. That's just kind of stuff that you grow into. And so now this kid has been put on a platform. This kid over the next year will have all eyes on him. He'll be the returning champion. He'll have a swagger about him as he's now about to head into sophomore year and or possibly junior year of high school. Kids are going to say, man, what did you do, Becky? And she's like, oh, me and my family went to Disney World. Hey, what did you do, Susie? I went to the beach one day. They're going to be like, hey, Booga, what did you do? I won $3 million at the Fortnite World Cup. I'm the greatest player ever. And he's going to develop this swagger where now he's going to be encouraged by fans. He's going to be picked up by certain teams like he already is. And now he's going to be a face to recognize come into next year. And we're going to see him with a little more swagger, a little more crowd control, which is going to be fun to see. But yeah, I totally think it's a dichotomy of like, who are you watching? Where do you get it from? And for me, that's more in tune than the normal person with esports. I think a couple of these teams do a really good job. FaZe Clan, we know, have had its ups and downs with Tfue Turner, but in the grand scheme of things, they make sure you know all of their players. 100 Thieves has done an incredible job doing YouTube series after YouTube series of, you're going to know the brand, you're going to know the players. When they're out there, you're going to recognize them and say, hey, I want to root for those guys or those gals out there because I've watched them grow. I'm committed to them just like they are to the game. So It's a tough one, but I think at that age, he's going to grow a little bit more into controlling a crowd like that.
Man, and maybe this is where this thing really does grow. Because if I think of the reason I asked the question is because I think if the thing that I enjoyed more than the some of the way that him winning or whatever, it was when I knew who like the tournaments where they did like either the pro-am or with the tournaments where all of like the streamer tournaments. So it was Ninja against Doc, against Shroud, against JD, against Dakotas, because I knew who they were, right? And so what draws you in is that the knowledge of who the players are, knowing who when they battle each other. Like think of how many crazy clips of like Shroud killing Dr. Disrespect on the internet. Right, you know what I'm saying? Because you know who they both are. And I hope that's where this thing goes with esports. Like I hope that the next iteration of the Fortnite Cup, you do know who the players are. You do know a little more about them. So then it matters, because I didn't catch myself giving a rip when certain players went down, besides that dude that cheated, right? I don't think I didn't know who they were. And I also thought it was kind of bizarre. And maybe this is like also where this industry's going, which is probably is where it's going. There's going to be like this, like you and I have talked about with streamers before. There's guys that are really good and really entertaining. There's guys that are like, people don't kill me, but I'll put Doc into that group, right? He's super funny and he's also pretty damn good. And then there's Shroud, who's just great, but he's not really entertaining. Like if you watch Shroud and he's not cracking jokes or whatever, you may get to know him and think he's funny, but he's not all that. And then there's like the ninjas and stuff. So I think this thing's going to turn into like, look, I didn't know any of the names of any of the pros. I got to be honest. And I follow it a little bit. I didn't know any of them. And there's going to be people who you and I know who are going to be the big names, but none of them are going to be, I think the only one I knew, because I don't even think Nick Merckx was in the professional one. He may have been in the duos, but I don't think so, was that one kid, Aiden. That was the only kid that I knew that I saw at PAX last year. Other than that, I didn't recognize any of the names, right? So you've got like these social streamers like the Pokemains and all these different people who are going to continue to do that thing, but they're not professional level players. Like even Ninja. I mean, again, don't hate me. He's not. He's not as good as what those guys are, or maybe he wouldn't be out there doing it because he makes so much money, but I don't think he's at that level anymore. And I don't think any of the people that you and I watch that think are entertaining are at that level. They're really, really good and they win hundreds and thousands of games, but they're not grinding the way these people are grinding, playing 40 hours a week and like sweaty basements, learning every nuance of the game. That's just a different gig now.
Oh, I love hearing that so much. I just want to work hard in the sweaty basement and be the best I can be. But yeah, I think with this, Tom, right, you just saw all eyes on this, and Fortnite's done a good job from the summer block party and a couple different smaller tournaments, not as massive, right? And I think this is going to be the turning point for them. They got one of the Overwatch League kind of heads to come join them over at Epic to be their esports head. And I think you're going to see a turn now after this of like, how do we get more tournaments? How do we get more eyes on this so we can start to build these player bases so kids can recognize these certain guys and gals out here who come and compete? Because I think we're going to see a turn right now of how big that was, how big it could be next year, what is the roadmap to get to that level. And it's going to be about 4 to 5, maybe even more of big, well-known tournaments that we're going to see where we're going to recognize these names of Tom Bach, the casual, I'm not watching every single day, every week. I'm going to recognize this kid because I saw the 4 big tournaments before and he was in the top 10 and now I know who his name is. So I think we're going to see that turn. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, but I do want to touch on, of course, some of the scoring right there. Booga, truly incredible. Played out of his mind all 5 matches. This kid, by match number 5 and about halfway through, it was already determined that he had won. There was no question. Even he knew in his mind when they asked him after the game, he was like, yeah, once we got into that mid-circle, I knew I was good to go. And even the commentators, I'm sure, like you talked about, Thomas, with that kind of setup, you can hear the commentators talking about you. It's hard not to smile. And I'm sure that kid knew. He won with 55 points. Runner-up came in with 33 points. So you can see the gap disparity there of this kid had it in the bag. But on the opposite side, for the duos, you had Nyrox and Aqua, a team that was down the first 3 games and actually turned it around in the 4th and 5th game to actually win that, and they narrowly succeed by 4 total points. So that was a fun one to watch. Of now you start to get really sweaty wet, Tom Bach, of you're down, You've had 3 decent games to keep you in the pack, but you need to step up. And these 2 on the final 2 games turned it around, able to steal that victory, and they walk away with a good prize pot of $3 million between the 2 of them. And they're just, if not as old, a little bit older than Booga himself in their teens, which is truly incredible to think about, Tom.
It's insane, man. It's like it was like everybody said. It's like every parent's worst dream. You know, your kid's like, oh, I want to play video games, and it's look, it's still like winning the lottery to be one of those kids, or you know, there's still 50 of them on the stage making a living doing this. But man, like it's probably good that they're that young, because if you were our age and doing it, you'd be so freaked out, dude. I would like literally freak out and like. There's no way I could compete in front of all these. Like, I would be the first person dead 100% of the time. There's no doubt.
It really works out to their age group, like you said, Tom Bach, of these kids truly have nothing to lose, right? If the parent is open and willing to understand the game, to understand what it may take, the long nights, the missed summer days of going out with their friends, those kind of evenings, if you can keep the kid on a semi-decent school schedule, decent grades, you can have that leeway of like, okay, why don't you play some games? Why don't you do this? Because in the long run, they're not giving up their 9-to-5 jobs like me and Tom Bach would have to do to be at this level, right? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you wanted to go for this, you would almost have to drop every commitment that you had to grind, to be the best, and find that balance. These young kids, where they're in middle school, high school, they have that almost leeway and that kind of safety net of like, well, you can do this. You're not going to lose your mortgage or the rent because mom and dad are truly taking care of it.
Right, if you don't succeed the way you want. And man, you know, there's one thing that I didn't really think about. I think we've talked before, like I've never been a big competitive multiplayer gamer, and you know, even though I think of myself as being pretty decent at video games, I am like the worst when it comes to like, you know, playing against Twitch level shooters and young kids. Is you got to figure, even for the best of these kids, this career is pretty short. Like the true professional level gamers. Now, maybe there's other games that are more strategically focused, like League of Legends and others, where it's not Twitch skills, it's more intellectual and it doesn't matter. But dude, when you're talking about the best of the shooters, age really does matter. And there's going to be a point at which people's just reactions are so precisely different from, you know, 5 years later, that by the time you hit 25 or 30 or 35, like you got to cram that into whatever time you're good at it, because the reality is there's always going to be somebody younger coming up that's going to have the skills that you don't, right? Like I can't even kind of compete at those games at my age, even though I think I'm kind of good at games. Man, that's like a whole nother level of craziness that you make whatever money you can make young, and then you're probably done with it for your life. You're done with it.
So much fun, Tom Bach. And we'll end it with that, but we still have some more esports on the rise. NBA 2K League Season 2, their finals is this weekend. Minnesota Timberwolves Gaming has come from nothing to something. They're going to take on the 76ers GC, a squad last year that was in the running the whole season, even in this season, and has yet to really win a tournament or make a name for themselves. So they're hungry. You got the new squad from Minnesota. They're looking to get a win. And they have one of the players in Bear to Beast who's become the face, the icon of this league. So you got a great tournament ahead of you. And then, of course, down in Las Vegas, Tom Bach, if you're ready to grab your fight stick and you're ready to really compete, Evo is going on right now this weekend, and you know that's always a ton of fun. Last year, or at another tournament down in Florida, I was reading, some kid was throwing chairs at people because he had lost. So who knows what Evo could bring us this year?
Oh my God, that's great. So what is your you're going to be doing some shoutcasting? What's on your docket?
Yes, so
NBA?
I actually have some shoutcasting going on right now. So last night, you're probably listening to this, it's a while ago, but I shoutcasted the WR Pro Am League Xbox One Season 8 Championship. It was a best of 7. We got to see some high-level NBA 2K Pro Am. Whole lot of fun. I actually co-commentated with a young lad named Russ Rebrands. Truly a great time. We really enjoyed it. And so moving forward, I will now shoutcast on Sunday. We're going to host an Apex Legends tournament. Actually, there's a group that's going to organize it, host it, and I will just shoutcast it. So that will be a ton of fun. Continue to grow the name, continue to work on the shoutcasting. And then on Monday night, I'll be back with the WR Pro Am League team for the PlayStation 4 finals. So there's about $5,000 up for grabs with those WR Pro Am leagues and the 2K world. And then down in Apex, that's about a $500 prize pool. So some big prizes that I'm just doing community level wise and continue to grow with that.
God, man, I'm telling you, brother, this is so your jam. I want to see you keep doing this. Like, this is my favorite thing of all the awesome things you do. this to me is the one that's like this my favorite. I think it's your wheelhouse to do shoutcasting, esports. Like I can't wait for the day that I'm watching the next Fortnite Cup and it's your boy SnowBikeMike. Like it's coming, dude. I can feel it.
Tom Bach, you're going to make me blush on the podcast. Let's keep it going. So our next story is going to be a fun one for all you Switch owners out there. Some cool news and a big RPG coming your way. This story from IGN.com by Matt Purslow. The Outer Worlds will be released on the Nintendo Switch. The Outer Worlds, the upcoming RPG from Fallout New Vegas developer Obsidian, is coming to the Nintendo Switch. The new announcement made today by Nintendo on Twitter revealed the news. The Outer Worlds senior producer Matt Singh explained that the game is being ported to the Switch by Virtuous and will come to consoles following the game's main launch on other systems. This game is coming out on October 25th for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, so keep an eye on that. But another big title similar to Skyrim coming out on your Switch, and that was one of those fun Western RPGs that I think everybody kind of knows and loves, and an exciting one to see this new one coming out of that Microsoft first-party studio Obsidian coming onto your Nintendo Switch. So Tom, of course, I wanted to pose the question of, are you excited for this? Does this interest you? And our final one that we'll talk about at the end of the conversation of, if you could pick any big RPG, whether it be Eastern, Western, whatever, what would you put on your Nintendo Switch as we start to see these larger third-party AAA titles start to come into the fold?
Mike, my first reaction to this was actually a little bit kind of freaked out, only because this is a game that I've been really looking forward to, right? We talked a long time ago about Obsidian, and you especially are a huge Fallout New Vegas fan, right? That was one of your big jams. The fact that this can even port over to Switch made me kind of pause and be like, wait a second, like there's a level of sort of, and I'm not just a big graphics guy, but I'm shocked that this game can run on a Switch. No offense to Switch, but we know there's a big discrepancy between those two consoles. Like, I immediately was like, does this mean that this game's going to be a little less sort of, the end of one of these generation kind of games that should be this, pretty amazing title that was going to be, and I didn't even know it wasn't exclusive to Xbox, if I'm being honest. Like that kind of was lost on me throughout all this when they acquired Obsidian and how that all went down. But dude, my first reaction was one of kind of like, really? You're going to take a game of this sort of what I think, I don't know what the hell the caliber is going to be, but I assumed it was going to be a pretty high caliber game and port it to a Switch? Like, I don't know. It made me pause. It made me worry for this game, if I'm being honest. That was my first reaction to it.
Tom, I'm on the flip side. I'm super excited about this one. I'm really pumped up. I think when we really look at Outer Worlds, right? Outer Worlds, we kind of know it's still running on that old school engine. It doesn't seem to be like, oh, it's a brand new Fallout engine, or, oh, this is going to be groundbreaking. We've really seen Fallout from Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4 really kind of stick in that same vein. So it doesn't look like it's pushing the graphics that hard where I'm like, oh man, we're going to get a gigantic downgrade on this. I also haven't played Skyrim on Switch to see how big of a downgrade that is. But when it comes to me, it's like, that's what I kind of want. I want these Western RPGs that I know, that I love, that I can kind of get lost in on my Nintendo Switch. Me being a semi-Nintendo guy, a lot of these games either capture me or they're like, I could skip this, right? Octopath Traveler, not for me, but it's a big game. It's juicy. It's meaty. So when you go on those long plane rides, you can play those whenever. And so when I start to look at Skyrim, start to think of some Fallout games, or I start to look at this, I'm like, this is what I want on a plane ride. This I can get lost in for 2 to 3 hours. I can make some headway and still know that I have a giant chunk of game still left ahead of me whenever I want to play it.
But that's the real thing, though. So think about, like, if you start it there, you're going to have to play it there, right? I mean, unless they have cross-save across platforms. So if you started on the Xbox, you're not going to just start it again on the Switch after you put 10 hours in on your Xbox, right? And same in reverse. If you started on your Switch, you're stuck on the Switch forever to play it start to finish, right? Did they talk about cross-save? Is that even going to be a thing?
They have not spoke about that. I don't know if they're going to look into that, but I agree, Tom. That's a tough one for all gamers, right? Where do you put your time commitment? Where do you put the chunk? And I think for something like this, for me personally, my main account is going to be on Xbox, right? That's where I'm going to sink the time, the effort. I'm really going to care. But there's always that back of your mind saying, well, what if I did this? what if I became the bad guy? What if I tried this, but I don't want to ruin that save? I think that's where the Nintendo Switch in that second playthrough is really going to be key for me of like, now I can be the bad guy, or I can go out there and join the Imperial Army instead of being with the rogue people. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be more for me where it's like, this is going to be my alt account where I don't put that much worry in, maybe not that much time and effort. I might not ever get as far as I do, but at least I know I can go a little wild over here because I know my true love is on that side over with Xbox.
Dude, I never thought of it that way. That's actually a great idea. I always think of those games as like, it's sort of like Skyrim. Look, I love the fact that Skyrim moved all these different places, but man, I had so much time sunk into the main one that I just didn't want to start over, right? It was so hard to get to level whatever the hell I was at. That's like the thought of starting over. But to your point, if you're going to play it like a totally different way, then yeah, it's totally worth it. So did you know that I always get Outer Wilds and Outer Worlds confused. Did you know the Outer Worlds was gonna be multi-platform?
Correct. Yes. So I remember back in when Xbox first picked up Obsidian this studio, I believe, like I told you beforehand, was Obsidian was already working on this game, and Microsoft came in, said, "Hey, we're gonna purchase you. You can release this title." And from my understanding, the next one would be a first-party exclusive, or maybe they'll come to some other conclusion. I mean, for me personally, we know Xbox needs the exclusivity, right? They need those first-party titles to kind of battle with Sony. But on the flip side, to me, money coming in is money coming in. I'm not truly that mad if I was the big boss of like, if we're going to buy this studio and they want to put out a game and we can have it reach all platforms. I think of Minecraft where I can start sucking in extra money. I'm not truly mad at that. I know that we're kind of in the exclusive battle, but in the long run, it might work out better just to start taking in money from different consoles.
Oh, I think for sure. I think Microsoft's already really sort of decided that's how they're going to do this, right? With a lot of these, it makes total sense. It is a little weird that it is Nintendo, but I don't think any of them should be adverse to selling across platform. I'm sure Sony fans would argue with that because, dude, Sony sold a ton of consoles this generation because the exclusive games were so good. I mean, no offense to the console or whatever being better or worse than an Xbox or whatever, but man, their exclusive games carried them to this giant number that they had. That's a weird position to put, Microsoft or anybody in. Dude, I just hope this is a good game. Like, this is a game that I definitely, everything I've seen about it, I dig. It's kind of one of my sort of games when it comes to RPGs. So what other one would you want to see? Like, if you could take anything from the history of Western RPGs, I guess in this case, and stick it on a Switch, what would it be?
Tom, I'll go with the safe and easy answer because you brought it up earlier. My favorite Fallout out of all of them was Fallout New Vegas, so that would be really cool to see that, to replay that. And that's another one that we talk about of like, now I can be the bad guy. Now I can just start shooting up the Vegas area and go wild and be that gun-toting badass. And on the other one, when I think about two more, Fable would be a great one for me. Fable is always one of those where whenever I play that game, I always want to be the good guy, but I'm always interested in knowing what the bad side looks like, but I'm afraid on that save to ever ruin it. So a Fable game for me, maybe Fable 2, even Fable 3 would be good enough for me of like, now I can really start to play around and try something different on that flight, become the bad guy that I inner want to be and see how that goes. And my final ones would probably be Mass Effect. Wouldn't Mass Effect be so cool to have on that, a little sci-fi opera-based game where you can go around and go crazy and really enjoy it? I think that would be a ton of fun.
Can you imagine, man, especially just because, so many BioWare games lately have not sort of met the mark to have, I mean, people have been clamoring for the Mass Effect collection just in general, even if it was on Xbox, but man, that'd be a crazy one. I hadn't thought about that one. That'd be huge. Dude, for me, and it's like, it's the one that I know is going to take me 100 hours. I've probably put 30 hours into it, but every time I get into it, I always get distracted off to something else, is Persona 5.
Oh,
like,
Tom.
That's the one that, like, I love that game, and I don't know what the hell it is about. Look, there's a ton of games that I put in, and this is crazy to say this, that I put 80 out. Like, I've probably put 120 hours into Sekiro, however the hell you want to say it. I did the same with Days Gone. I did the same with a bunch of games this year. But here's the difference, dude. When I started those games, I had no idea how many hours it was going to take to get through it. Like, if you would have told me Days Gone was 85 hours long, I probably would have been like, oh, man, I don't think I want to play that. But I organically got there without knowing that it was 85 hours. I didn't know Sekiro was going to be that many hours. I figured it was like, look, I put a lot of hours into Dark Souls and stuff, but I didn't think it was going to be that long, but it was. Something about Persona, because you know it's that long, everybody talks about it being that long. Like, it's almost like it just turns me off to playing it because I know it's going to be that that many hours, which is such a stupid thing to say because I do that many hours on these other games, right? But dude, as much as I travel, which is way too much, as many hours as I sit on an airplane, which is like every week, dude, having Persona to be able to crank through that game would be heaven for me.
Oh, I think you and many other people, Tom, would love to see Persona come to that. I was a person who had never played Persona. Thankfully for my Vita, I was able to jump into Persona 4 Golden. I played probably about 20 hours of that and really enjoyed it, right? And then the Vita lifespan kind of died off, and now I don't take the Vita with me everywhere I go because the Switch is just so much better. And so, yeah, if you could put Persona 5 on that, that would actually make me want to play it because I rarely turn on the PlayStation where I have Persona 5 and want to sink that much time into that console while on stream or whatever. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty easy bet, and I know a lot of people want that. Will we ever get it? I don't know, but definitely an exciting choice right there, Tom.
So good, dude. I love that game. Every time I play it, I'm always like, why am I not playing this more? It's just one of those strange oddities that I haven't finished that game or sunk the amount of hours in. Have you not, dude, you've got to sink some hours into 4. 4 is awesome. Like, that game is incredible. And those games, I never would have thought I would have liked them. Like, that's one of those, we've talked about XCOM before, which would be another kind of a cool one to put on Switch. Oh. But like I never thought I would like. If you would explain Persona to me, I'd be like, whatever, that game sucks. Like, that's so not my jam. But there's something about those games that is just so good that they just suck you in and you can't sort of get away from them, right? So you gotta power.
Maybe I'll dust off the Vita. Did you know that I won the Vita off of a roulette game, Tom? It was a long time ago. It was when the first year the Vita came out. Me and the buddies went out to play roulette, and I struck it big on 00. And I looked at it and I was like, guess who's buying a Vita now? And we left it. I went and bought the Vita that day.
Like an actual, like in a casino, like in Tahoe, you actually won in Tahoe?
I put the money up on 0 and bang, it hit 0. Paid me out big.
Feels like 50 to 1.
It's like, guess what? I guess we're going to buy a Vita. And that's how I got my Vita, was because of roulette wheel.
That's so funny.
But speaking with the Nintendo Switch, we're going to end today's show with our final piece of news, a fun one and an interesting one to see where it goes from here. This story from IGN.com by Alicia Judge. Mario Tennis Aces is temporarily free in new game trial scheme. Nintendo has lifted the lid on a new game program called Game Trials, which will soon give European Nintendo Switch subscribers the option to play Mario Tennis Aces for free. Game Trials seems to be Nintendo's answer to PS Plus Instant Game Collection, albeit with a little less freedom. Whereas PlayStation lets members download and keep the selection of the monthly games for as long as their subscription remains active, Game Trials is a system where you effectively borrow the Nintendo chosen game for a limited time with progress saved for you if you buy it. Running from August 7th to the 13th, the first game trial game for Europe is Mario Tennis Aces. The trial grants full access to the game, which will then also be on sale at 33% discount for those who want to play it and buy it for the full amount. So, Tom Bach, a fun one here. You know, we've had a rocky road or a semi, climactic appearance of Nintendo Switch Online. Really, it kicked on for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for people to play it online against each other, but we haven't seen much of them come out of it. I think you've been getting a free Nintendo Entertainment Select game, the NES games. I think you've been getting once a month. I haven't been downloading any of those, but this is something that makes me say, oh, maybe I should turn on my Switch once a month, or, oh, I would love to play game title X for a week like it looks like and see if I want to buy that.
Yeah, so let me make sure I got the facts here straight. So you have to be a Nintendo Online, whatever, like I think it's like $20 a year in order to qualify for this, correct?
Correct. You have to be an online Nintendo Switch subscriber.
Okay, and I think most people, and I don't know maybe if this is just me, but I bought it for cloud saves is the reason that I bought Nintendo Switch Online. I don't think I mean, some of the virtual console stuff, like, yeah, it's interesting, but I think mainly I bought it for kind of cloud saves, if I'm being honest. Like, I think that was kind of what, and because it wasn't that expensive. But so here's the real question about this. So you and I talked before about it, and I think a week is, if it really is a week, is kind of the perfect amount of time, right? Because in this crazy day and age, as you and I lament sometimes, at least I lament, I shouldn't throw you into that. People binge games and they finish them in a couple days. So if you gave people too much time, they just wouldn't buy anything. They would just check it out for a week and finish it and never come back to it. So I think the week is probably correct. But here's the real issue, man. And again, I don't want to put myself in this because I know I probably buy more games than most people do, but they don't release a ton of games that, I mean, I don't know, maybe they could take some of their digital games and put them up on here too, and maybe that's where they're ultimately going to go with it. But I wonder, like, how they have so many games. Their library is now huge. Like, there's freaking 50 games a week released now on the Switch, right? But they're really big games, the cartridge games. They're so few and far between now, right? Like what Tennis Aces was. They just don't come out with that many games. So I kind of wonder, like, look, there's no risk to them to do this, right? Let somebody mess around with your game for a week. If they like it, they're going to buy it. But I think most of their big games, people are going to kind of buy anyway. So take, like, I don't know, Luigi's Mansion's coming out soon, like in October, right? Most people that are going to get that game are going to get that game. Or Link's Awakening. They're going to get that game. They're going to get it. So I wonder if, like, there's going to be there's no risk to this to them at all because a week is nothing. But I also wonder if it's actually going to work for what they want it to work for, which is, remember back in the day, dude, how many demos used to come out? Like, I remember buying, like, demo discs back on Xbox 360. You got to play, like, 5 minutes of a game. Like, those days are so far gone now. Like, there are no more demos. The game industry doesn't do demos. But I wonder if this is really going to work for them. What do you think?
You know, Tom, it's an interesting one because you brought up a couple of good points for me, right? So let's take a look really quick at kind of the game selection like you brought up. You're afraid that maybe not you, but like in general, right? They're thinking to themselves, well, we can't put out, Super Mario Odyssey because the kid will beat it in a week, right? And then he'll never buy it. But a certain game, kind of like a games as service, like a Mario Tennis Aces, a Super Smash Bros, Mario Party, and I'm sure there's a lot of other titles where it's like, well, if you give them a week, there's no real game to beat here. They
True.
just get a taste of what kind of fun it would be, and then they could say to themselves, man, I invited my friends over for one day of Mario Party that we got to play for free. Now they want to play more of it. I should buy this game. Or, man, I really fell in love with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Sure, it's going to be one of those titles that they'll buy. I'll talk about that in a moment. But now I should buy that. So I think, like you said, you almost have to pick and choose the certain games.
You're right.
Because, yes, there's going to be some people that just tear through it. But on the flip side, you could give them those games as service games and say, oh, you could play that for a week. You can't beat it or anything. So you're going to come back to us if you want to keep playing it, which would probably be the right move. I think on the flip side, like you said there, Tom, you start to look as well, does this really work? Xbox Game Pass is almost a perfect kind of subscription to this, very similar, right? Of we're going to give you X amount of free games to go out and play, a little bit different than just a week, but really what they're doing here is they want you to sink the time in, they want you to enjoy that, and when it does get pulled off, hopefully you'll buy it. Sure, a small percentage probably will, but in the long run, it's better than nobody buying it, better than those people not buying it, right? For me, Luigi's Mansion, yes, it's a must buy and a lot of people will buy it, but there's going to be a small subsect that doesn't buy that, but would love a free demo or a week to try it. Maybe they buy it from them and you encourage that extra purchase.
But isn't it a weird in between? Because you think about what those other services are, right? Like you and I are big Games Pass fan. Like I'm baffled that all the stuff that comes out on Games Pass,
So incredible. It's so
new
good.
releases, like it's just insane to me. And if you wait long enough throughout the year, I think I got my Games Pass for like $29 for the year. It was like half price, the normal, $10 a month or whatever it was. So, or $5. It was crazy how inexpensive it was. So if you compare it to those, or you compare it to what Sony does, giving you the free game and then you get to keep it forever as long as you keep, because that's what Sony wants, right? They want you to not just be a 1-year PlayStation Plus. They want to get your money every year, just like Microsoft does. So I'm kind of like, why wouldn't they just give you games that you could keep? It just seems like a really weird in-between decision. Not that Nintendo's great at making big decisions of these kinds anyway, but it just feels like they should have gone all the way to me. Like, hey, if you're going to do this, pick a game that people can have and keep and maybe rotate them in and out. If you don't want to have them forever, let them have, for 6 months, let them keep Tennis Aces or whatever. It just feels like a half-baked or half-measured that they could have either gone one way or the other with. That's kind of what I thought when I saw it.
Yeah, I wonder, Tom, on thinking on that kind of level, right? Of like, when you look at Xbox and PlayStation, they have such a big catalog. Yes, Nintendo Switch has a big catalog, but it's not as massive, right?
No,
And so,
no.
like, we truly judge Xbox and PlayStation on the games that they give us for free. They're for free with our subscription. We shouldn't be judging them or worrying about them, but really, they know that they have to bring you a semi-decent quality and a large title game for you to be happy with that and want to come back next month. I think on Nintendo Switch, the issue is we're so early in that life cycle where we start giving away games every month. We start to really dwindle down what we could give away, or we start to give away these smaller title games where people are going to look at it and be like, why did I get Mutant Muds for free when PlayStation is getting The Last of Us? Now I'm uptight at them, you know? And so I think maybe in the next year, 2 years, you might see Nintendo start to switch that. I think they need a larger title base and a little more in-depth library to start giving you banger after banger to really make it feel like this is something interesting, you know?
Yeah, it's a good point, but dude, like the market is what the market is, right? They're competing against these other companies. I mean, sometimes I don't even think Nintendo's really competing with the others because they have such a unique fan base that, you know, it's just a different thing. But look, those, I'm amazed at the games that the freebie games, either the Xbox Live Gold games, the Xbox Games Pass games, or the PlayStation monthly games. Like, dude, those are like AAA, you know, 10 out of 10 games. Like a Metal Gear comes out, yeah, albeit it's a year later, but it's still Metal Gear. It's still this amazing game. Like the crap that they've given away to me has just been unbelievable for them to go do. And to me, look, if they don't want to give away the bangers and the new stuff, why wouldn't you just give away, you know, and maybe technically you can get it with the annual Nintendo Switch online is, dude, how many times have we talked about the amount of copies I've bought of like Super Metroid or, you know, Super Mario 3. I've bought that on every flippin' console and every generation of whatever. Just give those away for free. Let people have like the entire back catalog of the amazing stuff that they have, which is a ton of it, rather than do this, right? I don't know. It just seems like we'll see. If it depends what their goal is. If their goal is to sell more online subscriptions, that's one thing. If their goal is to truly sell more games by letting people have a little taste of it, that's kind of a different animal. My take on the other two, Xbox and PlayStation, they're doing it because they want your annual subscription. They don't give a rip about you buying those games necessarily. They want your $60 a year every year to keep you in their ecosystem.
Definitely. And I'm interested to see where we go. They haven't brought this project to North America. I know out in the Asian market, they're giving them Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker for a week as well. So they're starting to play around with that. But for me, this gives me more incentive to be like, man, I actually value my Nintendo Switch online subscription. These are one of those things, some people might forget about it, right? You might have this on auto renew and you don't really think twice about it. But eventually it catches up to people where they say, man, I'm not getting any value out of this, like Tom said, or, oh, this doesn't really matter to me, and they start to cancel it. So if this program does come to fruition and they can at least give me a taste of this, this gives me more value out of that package that I'm paying for monthly and makes me want this, right? Each and every month I look at my Nintendo Switch and say, have I been playing this game online? Am I even playing Nintendo Switch online? Maybe I should cancel that and save the $10 a month. But if you were to give me something like that where now I could try Fire Emblem Three Houses for free for a week, that would get me encouraged to keep the subscription and probably sell me on that game, right? Now I look back on Octopath Traveler, I bought that off the hype and everything and didn't really like it. But if you gave me a week for free, I would have better known if I want this or not, or I probably would have bought it seeing how beautiful it was and only having a week at my fingertips, right? Now that I have it after that first day purchase, it's like, I don't have any, it's just there, you know?
Dude, you said the smartest thing about all this, which is if you pick the right games, it will do exactly what you want to do, which is sell copies. Because, like, I've never played a Fire Emblem game before in my life, man. Like, I'm not an anime guy. I'm not a big JRPG guy. I'm none of those things at all. I never have been. And so that stuff's super foreign to me. So a game like that you have no idea what it is. And I'm digging it, by the way. We should talk later about it because it actually is pretty cool. Like, I played it on the plane. And I'm kind of into it. Like I didn't think I was. I'm playing it. I am. I've probably got like 8 hours in and I'm kind of digging it if I'm being honest. But that's a perfect one because it's so big. And if you only give people, like there's probably some idiots that can knock it out in a week. I have no idea. I wouldn't be one of those people. But like if you give people a little taste of that one, that's a great one. If you believe in the game and it's a good game, people would see it and buy it, right? So if they put the right games into that program, yeah, I think they get what they want out of it.
I love it, Tom. Well, with all of that Nintendo Switch talk, that will conclude episode 2 of the HypeCast. Of course, it's your boys Snowbike Mike and Tom Bach talking about the week's biggest gaming headlines. We want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and show off the YouTube page. You get a lot of fun content out there with the daily hype reports, the weekly HypeCast, and so much more coming your way. Make sure to keep an eye out for that. But Tom Bach, you and I, at the end of the month, we're going up to PAX West. It's going to be very exciting. Tom, you're a veteran up there. What are you most looking forward to? Are you ready to shake some hands with the best friend community? And are you ready to have a good time?
Firm handshakes, baby, all the way around. Man, I am so looking forward to it. First of all, to see you, of course, and it is always good to get together with everybody. Man, I dig PAX West. There's some things about it that are a little bit challenging at times, but of all the shows, and by the way, I do want to say, you and I want to do a podcast of me interviewing you about this last year of all of your E3 experience, RTX, all these things you've been doing, because, dude, you'll call me and tell me these stories that I'm like, oh, my God, we have to podcast and get these hysterical stories out to the Snowbike Mike fans of the world. So one of these days we're going to do it, and people can comment below if they want us to do it, because, dude, the stories and the crap that you tell me are so flippin' funny. Like, I can't even get through our phone conversations because they're so damn funny. But PAX West is great, dude. I'm so glad you and Christian are coming. I hope there's a lot of other people that come. It's this cool mix of, like, you know, indies. It's like half indies and then half the big boys. And it's a cool vibe. It's Seattle in the summer, man. You can't beat it. Dude, I'm super duper looking forward to it.
Oh, I can't wait, Tom. It will be exciting. And we now know that Cyberpunk is coming with the gameplay stuff. Probably what I saw down at E3, but still exciting to see that big yellow booth. Everybody's eyes are going to be on that. We'll be up at PAX West the end of the month, of course. He's Tom Bach. I'm Snowbike Mike. You just had some fun watching the HypeCast, and we will be back next week with all the gaming headlines that you want us to go in depth on. Have a wonderful weekend, gamers, and enjoy yourself.
Peace.
See ya.
See you guys.